All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanad, and in this video, we're going to talk about what former heavyweight champion Hasim Rahman had to say about in a skill comparison between the two great champions of the welterweight division, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and what it would mean for a fight if they have it. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan, and in this video, we're going to be in the welterweight division. Hasim Rahman Sr. had a lot to say about Errol Spence and Terence Crawford and brought up a very, very interesting point about the amateurs and what Errol Spence Jr. has as an advantage over Terence Crawford. Now, before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber or supporter, there is a new way that you can support the channel through the super thanks. It's a little heart down below. If not, please hit that like button before you leave the door. So let's get into this, man, because this is something that I've said for a while, or I've heard people used to mention all the time about boxing, about boxers when you compare boxers. And I have not heard it as much when it relates to this Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford conversation. Now, first and foremost, this fight has not been announced. Do not know if this fight's going to happen. I believe that the fight is going to happen because, it's just, you got to get lucky every once in a while, man. So put out the positive, put out some positivity in the air and just feel like, okay, they're going to work this out. They're going to make this happen, right? But the idea of talking about who would win between the two, to me, is just, it's always been fun. It's a very intriguing thing to me. And then you have a former heavyweight champion, Hasim Rahman. Hasim Rahman, I do believe, is the former WBC heavyweight champion. He won that championship by knocking out Lennox Lewis back in the 1990s. Lennox Lewis then turns around and knocks out Hasim Rahman. So, Hasim Rahman is forever famous for being a one-time heavyweight champion, but a very, very good skilled fighter. You also might have heard the name recently because his son Hasim Rahman Jr. Was going to fight Jake Paul before Jake Paul faked out on that fight because of weight issues, probably ticket sale issues. But anyway, you get my drift. So Hasim Rahman was interviewed and asked about the Spence Crawford fight. And he said some stuff that was real interesting about why he picks Errol Spence Jr. to win that fight, right? And he pointed out something about the amateurs. He's like, look, man, I've been watching Errol Spence Jr. for a very long time. I watched him in the amateurs, because his son is around the same age as Errol Spence Jr. and Hasim Rahman Jr. was also, an amateur fighter, right? And a good amateur from what I understand. And he said, look, man, Errol Spence Jr. is a better amateur than Terence Crawford was, right? Now, if you're not familiar with Errol Spence Jr.'s amateur career, he's a multi-time national champion. He was an Olympic quarterfinalist, didn't medal, but was an Olympic quarterfinalist. You hear, guys like, Regis Prograis and Omar Figueroa talk about him in the amateurs. Was just a very, very, very good amateur fighter, right? Now, what does that mean for Hasim Rahman to say that Errol was a better amateur fighter than Terence Crawford was? That goes to how fundamentally sound a fighter is, right? Because people would say this all the time, like when they talk about Deontay Wilder, or they talk about these guys that come up and they say, look, man, these guys really, they are very talented fighters, but they did not have the amateur pedigree that other fighters have had, right? And that, in order to be a very good amateur, you have to be very, very fundamentally sound in order to win Golden Glove tournaments, in order to win national tournaments, in order to win, in order to win international tournaments, to make it to the Olympics, go through several rounds in the Olympics, and to do that for a series of years, it's the scoring criteria for amateur boxing, where they got those white tips on the gloves, is about being hit and not being hit, right? So you have to avoid getting hit, and there's 3-minute rounds, only 3-minute rounds, right? So you have to be able to hit and not get hit. So it is more conducive to people that are more fundamentally sound than, say, somebody that is a big power puncher, or somebody that may fight in a more professional style, right? So for Errol Spence Jr. is somebody that has a very much a professional style, in that he is, trying to beat you up, trying to wear you down, right? Take your body away, because he's, as being a really big, being a big welterweight, a strong welterweight, wearing you down over the course of the fight. It speaks volumes about his skill level for him to fight like that as a pro, but yet have that amateur experience where he has to actually win he has to not just win every minute of the round. He's literally got to score and hit the other guy more times than he's hit, in that hit and not get hit, fashion. So that speaks volumes about the skill set of Errol Spence Jr. Now, what Hasim Rahman said about Terence Crawford, he's like, Terence Crawford is very skilled. Terence Crawford is more versatile as a professional than Errol Spence Jr. is, but he's leaning towards Errol Spence because of Errol Spence's size and his strength, and just thinking that he's like naturally the bigger guy, which I think is fair. Now, for me, I think that, more than likely, Terence Crawford is a guy that could have been at welterweight earlier in his career, right? I do believe he actually started out fighting at 140 pounds and then went down to 135, and then back from 135 up to 140, then up to 147. So I don't think, that Terence Crawford is really that much smaller than Errol Spence Jr. is. I don't think that he probably isn't as naturally as strong, but in just a natural way. Errol Spence Jr. doesn't seem to be somebody that really lifts a lot of weights, just seems to be somebody that has a naturally good amount of musculature to them, where Terence Crawford, I do think a lot of his size and his strength came through weightlifting. And I do think when there's a difference between the two, right, where you have guys that are just kind of naturally bigger and stronger, but I don't think that I don't personally think that that's going to mean a lot in the fight. I do know that Terence Crawford he's strong, and he's strong enough, right? If he clips Errol Spence Jr., he should be able to hurt Errol, because he's a very good, strong puncher, right? And he's proven that against other guys that are, big welterweights, not necessarily as skilled, but, bigger guys. Jeff Horn was a bigger guy. What's his name? Jeff Horn's a bigger guy. Kell Brook was a bigger guy, right? But, I don't think they were at the stage when he fought him where Errol Spence Jr. is now. But it's just interesting to hear, somebody actually give Errol Spence Jr. credit for being a very fundamentally sound and very skilled fighter, right? Now, being very fundamentally sound does not necessarily mean that you're going to do a bunch of different things in that ring. It just really means that you're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So like everything that you do is correct, and everything that you do, is very hard to find mistakes and holes in that. I think that's pretty much what that means to me. Where Terence Crawford, on the other hand, has a lot of bells and whistles, man. He can do a lot of things that really stand out, that are really flashy. But anyway, you let me know what you think of what Hasim Rahman had to say in the comment section. Thank you so much for your support, man. Subscribe to the channel if you don't mind, if you haven't already. And with that, I'm out. Peace.